So here it is. Here it is. I'm reading this book with the prehistoric people, the Akikuyu of British East Africa, and here it is. The Akikuyu country is as fertile as it is beautiful. The only problem for the student is how people so naturally unwarlike has contrived to possess and hold so desirable a residence. Okay, listen to this, listen to this. So they think that the land is so beautiful because when Sir Charles Eliot was asked to describe the land in Kenya, he said that with its bright red soils and high rainfall, Kenya, the central province of Kenya, was easily the most beautiful and the most fertile place on earth. And therefore he concluded, therefore, it was perfect for the British. I like how these people see these things. I like how they see these things. So they're asking, the Kikuyu country is as fertile as it's beautiful. The only problem for the student is how our people, naturally so unwarlike, has contrived to possess and hold so desirable a residence. That we are so undeserving to live in a place that is so beautiful and so fertile. This is just incredible. The entitlement, the just the belief that nobody else deserves anything that is good is just incredible. So anyway, she speaks about the customs when she first arrived, and she speaks about something that I found really interesting because my grandmother used to do this. So she's talking about spitting as a sign of gratitude or something good happening. And what she says was that when and she described something, an incident that happened, and I'll tell you how that is relevant. So basically what she said was that when people show gratitude and when people are happy, they basically will spit. So she talks about spitting. And I remember seeing my grandmother, when you give her a gift or something nice, she will go. But that's literally her being grateful. It's like a prayer. And that's what she would do. And that specifically reminds me of my grandmother. And so she talks about, by she, I'm talking about Catherine Rutledge and her husband Scoresby, the people who wrote this book in 1902 when they arrived in the central province of Kenya, where I'm from. And so she says about spitting, so to spit upon a person or a thing is an expression of goodwill. Whoa. So like the blacksmith spits upon the sword that he has forged before handing it over to the owner. And the female visitor spits on the newly arrived youngster as a sign of welcome. Oh, that is so funny, my God. But I've seen bits of this information, like before, like you cut grass, like people, I used to see people spitting on their hand and whatever. But she also makes a comparison. She says, she says, where is it? Oh yeah. So she makes a comparison between the spitting, and she said that the lower classes in England do the same. They spit on a coin as a sign of good luck. But then she's talking about the lower classes, and of course she would have had to be an upper class person in order for her to be talking about the lower classes behaving in such a manner. But she describes something, and the thing is, the writing of these books, which is something that I have struggled with reading any of these books, is the condescending language that they use and how they just view us, which is just interesting. So she says, I once saw an amusing instance of this spitting in accordance with politeness. An unarmed old man was going across a hollow camp square when a large boarhound puppy sprang to its leg and galloped to him for a bit of a frolic. The old fellow suddenly saw it coming, and never having seen such a creature, for the Kikuyu have no dogs. Yeah, the Kikuyu never used to keep dogs. Yeah, my people never used to keep dogs. They used to keep sheep, mind you. And the sheep, they used to stay in the house. The goats and the sheep, they used to stay in the house. Like, you would be literally warming yourselves around the fire. And the sheep would just come and sit next to you and start warming themselves. So I guess that's like having a pet. A pet that... Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's the same thing. Okay, so this is what she says. So the Kikuyu have no dogs. And so this man was very frightened and turned to fly. Then it dawned on him that it was the strange beast of the white man. So he stopped, knelt down, spat on his palm of his hand, and extended it to the puppy, so as to express amity in the same way as he would have done his master. This language really annoys me. Now the dog had been taught to shake hands, and of course, because the dog is full of courtesy. So now the dog had been taught to shake hands. So of course, when it reached him, it sat up and extended its paw, and the friendless relationship began between the two. Do you know what though? Like, it's, you know, I have to keep reading these books because I get so much out of them, but it really upsets me the way, because this is genuinely how they believed that they were superior. And this is genuinely how they believed that we are inferior, and not even believe. To this day, they still believe so. And I find it so difficult to read these books just because they're so condescending. And it's a basic necessity for me to be able to, if you like, it's like mining for gold. You're just have to do all this hard work just to pull out a few gems in order to find out who I am and where what my customs were before they were destroyed. So why don't you like, subscribe?
Good morning, Africans. Good evening and good afternoon. I hope you're doing fine where you are. And if you ain't doing fine, please do fine where you are. So Africans are complaining, and Africans are saying that there is plenty of racism where it shouldn't be. Africans who are living in Africa are complaining of racism. Something which I talk a lot about in this channel, you know. In the Americas, black people face the same demon of racism. And here as well in Africa, if there's racism, again, that's just another bad thing that can ever happen to a black person. You know, it's better for you to be a victim of racism in a country that is, of course, not the same. Most of the people are not like you. They don't share the same skin color. But here in Africa, when anyone walks into these places, when everyone or anyone walks anytime, you don't see a black American, you don't see a Nigerian, you don't see a Senegalese, you don't see countries, you see an African, right? And so when people come here in Africa and they establish those institutions of racism, and they establish that we have hotels, we have restaurants that black people can't go and have their time, schools that black people can't go, hospitals that black people can't go, restaurants, supermarkets. It's just a sick thing. Africans, we were so quick to accept people into our lands. We were so quick to allowing them come here into Africa and live with us, and we gave them our lands, we gave them our food, we gave them our daughters to marry. But instead of giving things, they came back and they wanted it all. They even wanted us out of the equation as black males. Yeah, there have been situations where black women were taken for procreation and black males were castrated. So it's not good where you find in Africa we have different kinds of school. We have the ordinary primary schools, secondary schools, and or high schools and, you know, college or campus, as well as we have international schools. These international schools, they teach international curriculum. For instance, is IGCSE institutions. We have different schools in Kenya teaching British curriculum. Here in Kenya or in Africa, I believe you might have heard of such schools, you know. So these schools are not teaching African curriculum. That is where the problem first begins. We are too afraid of teaching our own culture and tradition. We think that our own culture and tradition is diminutive. We think that our own culture and tradition is not up to the par. We only want to teach the British curriculum. No problem. I got no problem with the British curriculum. What I have a problem with is our people facing racism because of some people who are learning, or some people who are teachers, or some people who are owners of these British schools or international schools. There's a lady who is bringing this concept into light, a concept that is so much worrying to a person who loves Africa, and a person who loves that in Africa, let the black man be free, but not again face condemnation in their own homeland. This woman is speaking about racism in international schools. I want us to watch her. I shall get back with a deep, critical analysis. Let's dive in.
I want to talk about anti-blackness, racism when it comes to Kenyan international schools, but international schools in general. Like, this is a very common sentiment if you go to any international school. As much as international schools offer well-rounded education and also just like good facilities, a lot of what goes into being an international school as a Kenyan, as a black person, is very draining, especially in like your formative years. And I'll preface this by saying that whatever I experienced in international school or what I observed is not as bad, or will never be as bad as being in a Kenyan boarding school and what children go through in Kenyan boarding schools. The only reason I bring up this racism or Afrophobia within international schools in Kenya, or like within international schools in Africa in general, is because most of the kids that are in international schools, their parents are usually politicians. Like, basically, they're the ones who are going into government after that. And so I feel like they hold like a lot of power when it comes to what Africa's future will look like. First thing I experienced was a huge culture shock when it comes to my identity as a black person, is that I recognized that I was black, right? That never used to happen. Like, that was not a thing I used to think about, you know? That was not a thing. So, like, I will say that when I went to an international school, it became apparent that, like, I was like, oh, I'm black. Like, I'm not only Kenyan, I'm black. When you grow up in Kenya, as a Kenyan who goes to, like, you know, you live in a all-black neighborhood, all-Kenyan neighborhood, you don't really think that how you're living is colonial, or, like, you have, like, some type of anti-black mindset. Like, it's not clear to you, because, like, for you, that's just, like, normal life. It's, like, normal life to be colorist, and it's normal life to, like, have internalized colonialism without, like, inside you. So, like, I feel like it became clear that I'm upholding white standards. I'm upholding Eurocentric standards when I went and was faced by white people, because, like, it was just like, whoa, like, this is serious. You know, like, the things we're reading about, you know, the racism we see on the streets, like, we see on the screens, like, it's very real. Like, it made me so, like, I was like, whoa, like, we literally have been fed this lie, you know? I became so conscious about, like, internalized colonialism or, like, Afrophobia within Kenyan life, because white people saying the same things you would say is not the same feeling. It makes you so uncomfortable, especially thinking about the colonial history and the fact that you're in my country. Like, it made me feel like, oh, like, why they said something, but that's not, like, you're not supposed to say that. There's like a couple of examples I can give about Afrophobia, and especially what that does to children, to black children within international schools, and how they view themselves, but also how they view Kenya. The thing is, in a lot of international schools, especially the small ones, Kiswahili is not offered. It's not offered. Like, I left Kiswahili in a Kenyan school because, especially, it was a small school. There was no way to engage with it. There was no way to learn it. There was no way to get tested on it. So, like, that's number one thing. And I remember, me, najua sikuwa nimezoea kuongea English. Like, that's not something like nilikuwa nimezoea. Like, it was not something that was something that I do. Like I grew up in like some small place. So when I came there, I remember trying to talk to this one other black girl, one other Kenyan girl in like in Kiswahili, and she did not want to do that. No, she didn't want to do that. Like I think I remember very small, like very few times where I've interacted with people from international schools, like other black or Kenyan students, and I've actually like spoken Kiswahili. It's because none of them want to do it. None of them want to do it. Talk about Kilimani niggas and Afrophobia and them seeing African culture as poverty. Now imagine that in a international school setting, but white people also think that, right? Like white people also see black culture, African culture as poverty. And then now imagine black kids who've grown up around white people who also think the same way. So like I always get super worried when I see Kilimani niggas acting like that, because I'm just like, bro, like this, like that's a very steep way of going into, you know, Afrophobia and also just like a colonial mindset. There was also a lot of colorism propagated by black guys. The black guys in international schools in Kenya are some of the colorist people you hey, boy, hey, because like they would never date dark-skinned women. They would like not even dark-skinned women, just like black girls. Like you would never be fast pick. It was either like a white woman or like a white girl or a mixed girl. Like if they're gonna date a black woman, it's gonna be a light-skinned black woman. Like they did not play about propagating colorism. And you know, like as black people, we would like have conversations between us. Like we would talk about colorism, and they would literally tell you to your face, like, oh, like black women are too dramatic. Like you guys are too loud. It's too much stress. Like, And like my last point, and trying to emphasize why I think it's so important to understand the racism within international schools, is because these black kids that are put into international schools, into white international schools, they are so far removed from their people, from the culture in Kenya, from the poverty in Kenya, from the working class. They are scared of the working class because literally they learn from the white people. Like the white people will tell them, like when they were stationed there, they were told like Nairobi is so dangerous, Kenya is so dangerous. And like of course these black kids who've grown up in those sides and grown up in that school also internalize this, and it makes them so detached because their parents are out there in government stealing money. They're gonna do the same thing because they have no empathy for poverty. They have no connection to you. Like that is just going to be a cycle over and over again. They have so much capital and they're gonna go and have power over Kenya, but they genuinely like just have no connection. They would have no like motivation to make things better. Also the fact that being African was never seen as cool. Like to be cool, you had to be like a bit Black American, or like we would use a lot of Black British slang, or like listen to, you know, drill music. And the thing is, that's just going to mean that if they do get in power, or if they do get into a lot of capital, it's going to be very westernized. It's not going to be in a decolonized manner, or like focusing towards decolonization or inclusion of African culture. Also, being in such an environment really made me understand capitalism, because I was like shocked at how much money is in that country. Like I was in shock. People just have money, they have drivers, they have cooks. I was just like, whoa, like this is not middle class. This is not middle class. It's like, and also like these, like a lot of the foreign nationals, they don't like live like this back where they're from, you know. It also made me just really think about Africa's economic state and how people can come from outside and live so comfortably when there's millions, like half of the population in Africa, like in Kenya, living below like the poverty line. Like I'm telling you, like international schools, it's like growing up in that really, really changed how I thought.
Yeah, speaking of this story, I just remembered yesterday what happened before it rained. And honestly, I feel like that rain that happened yesterday, that flooding, the whatnot, I'm not glad that it flooded, but I am so glad it rained. Because, anyway, I've not been in Kenya for a while now, and I'm back. And the shock that, you know what, sometimes when you're away, you think things will change, but they don't. So I'm going to give you this story time before I go get prepped for surgery. If you look at me, you'll notice there's something different. But anyway, let's get into it. I'm telling you, we went to Oyster Bay yesterday. Me and my friend, we were like, let's go grab a drink, let's catch up, right? Or get some food. Then these people walk past. They don't even give us service. They give us menus, we order drinks and food. He goes, I don't want to name him, but I saw your tag and I can mention you right now. And I literally stopped my friend from calling the manager. Anyway, we'll come back to that. I know some of the people who work there follow me on TikTok, but you will know what I'm talking about because I actually told them. So, me and my friend, we've waited an hour. No food, no nothing. And in that time, that same guy who took our orders has taken an umbrella, sheltered a white man from the rain, from the bar. When it started raining, you know how Oyster Bay looks like, it's like this, and then the seats at the bar, and if it rains, it can come in. And the rain from yesterday was extraordinary. I've not seen it like that in a while. Shelters the white man to where we were because it was more shaded, and he walks past us, shelters the guy. The rain shelters the guy, and the guy walks past us, and then he just folds the umbrella, doesn't even stop to tell us, oh, the food that you ordered is not available. Nothing, no update on what we ordered. Walks past us, gives up. I followed him with my eyes. He goes on the other side, gives the umbrella to another waiter who's taking drinks to the other side. I'm telling you, a couple came, sat down, got their drinks, got their food, and we haven't been served still. My white guy hadn't even ordered drinks. He's already gotten his drinks where he's been moved. My friend was like, something's fishy over here. And I'm telling her, let's go somewhere else because this is not giving. It's raining and it's cold, and she was feeling cold as well. I was like, this is not what we were coming for. Let's just go. And I was like, okay. So I told her, wait, while you're ordering the Uber, let me go talk to the waiter and ask him to get us umbrellas so that we can go. Because I've seen, if you're doing it for anyone, that's vibes. Me, I'm not racist. So I was like, Masaidia Napo, I'm coming. Okay. So I tell him, do you reckon you could get umbrellas and you could walk me and my friend to the car park so that we can get our Uber? And he was like, I can't help you. I don't even have an umbrella. I'm like, bro, see, I just saw you with that umbrella taking that white guy. And he's like, I can't even help you. And I'm like, and he's like, I think you should just wait until the rain stops and then we can go. And I'm telling him, this rain is not stopping. It's flooding everywhere, in your restaurant, in your bar area. And you're telling me to sit here in the rain. And you're not even serving me drinks. We've waited for an hour. Are you serious? He's like, so how you see, you can even see our machines the lights have gone off, our machines have stopped. And I'm like, look, that couple over there, those friends over there have come in, they've got their drinks. So the machine doesn't work for us, Amma. And he keeps cutting. He's like, he just wait. And I said, okay. I go back and I tell my friend, she's like, what have they said? And I'm like, he doesn't want to help us. And he's like, he doesn't want to help us with an umbrella and he refused to serve us drinks. Where's the manager? I'm like, girl, let's not cause drama. We're already having a good time out with our stories. The small hiccup shouldn't make our day horrific. After all, rain is like a blessing, right? And it's been so hot in Nairobi, honestly. Some relief. But I'm not saying the floods were a positive impact. Honestly, it was tremendously hard for a lot of people. There were trees on the roads and someone's car was crashed. I feel sorry for those people. So I just walk back and she's like, no, this is not okay. Like, we've literally seen that white guy being given special treatment, and he just ordered water only. And we've literally ordered drinks and we've ordered food. What's the difference between me and that person? And I was like, don't get angry about this. So I was like, right, just chill. So when our Uber arrived, we stood next to him, and I see my friend from a year and a half ago. I call her, I'm like, girl, come. She's with an umbrella. She turns around, I'm like, come. She's like, oh my God, it's you. And she hugs me. She's here on my TikTok, by the way. She hugs me. She's like, oh my God, I didn't know you're back. It's so good to see you. Have you been? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, this rain has really messed up the business. And I'm like, yeah, it has. Because even we're leaving, we ordered and we didn't even get served. She's like, who didn't serve you? I look at the guy. He's standing there. I like, yeah, we didn't get served. We literally waited for an hour, maybe 20, because we're literally getting rained on. And my friend's just sitting there. She's holding her peace because I told her don't argue. And my friend will argue for days. You all think I'm dramatic. That one. She's the fire to my Aries. I'm telling you. So I tell her and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, girl. But when the weather's a bit better, you should come through. I'll get you drinks and a good table. And I was like, okay, vibes. And she's like, come even. Let me help you. Let me walk you guys to the car, to your Uber. We go on the umbrella. She calls the security lady. Come help me with one of them. She brings another umbrella. I was like, I turned around and looked at the guy. He was just like, I was like, wewe, nikikupata. Anyway, I wouldn't fight anyone. Do I look like I can even fight? But yeah, that is the story I can tell you. Sometimes I feel like also, and as much as these people are racist to us, I've met people who ask you things like, oh, do you speak, how come your English is so good? And they're in Kenya. I'm like, have you not mingled with the locals? You think we're not educated? Anyway, it will still speak to what I told you on the last video. Some of these people are literally lower middle class and lower class from their country. They come, they flex on us because of the exchange rate. And most of those people haven't even gone to uni. And us Kenyans are very educated. So they'll come and try and trash on, they'll try and come and trash us. But it's not possible because we're actually educated. So stand your ground as a Kenyan and be like, no, you cannot speak to me like this. And go to immigration and get them deported. If you can, I mean, you should do it. But anyway, don't choose violence, be a peaceful person. But I also feel like sometimes us Kenyans were perpetrators. Like that guy in that oyster bin, that bartender, that serviceman, he literally walked that guy, took the umbrella, hid it, and then didn't want to help me. Sometimes we are the perpetrators. Anyway, please make sure to share your stories. DM me the stories. I will literally share them because we are fighting it one at a time. We are not keeping quiet anymore. We will not be treated like this in our own country. No.
The very problem that this sister is discussing about racism in these schools is a problem that is being rooted from our own selves. We are quick to throw away our culture and accept other people's culture, thinking that they have the best culture out there, but that's not true. You see, the African person is the one who will throw away their culture whenever they go somewhere else. We are quick to throw our culture and adopt another people's culture, and that is a very big problem. Another thing is this. You see, Africans, when we compare to white people or any other race, does not have to be white. When they move to Africa or when they move to other countries, they bring along their culture, their tradition. For instance, we have the Chinese. The Chinese have what we call the Confucius Institute. The Confucius Institute is an institute of teaching Chinese, Mandarin, and Chinese culture and tradition. You see, they carry it along and they preserve it and cherish it. For the Korean, they have the King Sejong Institute. King Sejong Institute is there to ensure that the world knows about South Korean culture, the world appreciates South Korean culture. But we Africans, we are quick to throw what's ours. We used to have mother tongue being taught in schools. We have removed those mother tongue. We have inserted European languages. We've said that you have to be fluent in English, you have to be fluent in Portuguese, you have to be fluent in Spanish, you have to be fluent in French, English, Spanish, whatever language, Belgian, whatever it is, Russian, whatever it is. But we don't want to teach our children how to know their mother tongue. You can't tell me that you love being black when you don't want to speak your own language in front of people. It is now said that if you are fluent in English, you are more intelligent. But if you are fluent in your mother tongue, you are not intelligent. What's that? You can't tell me that because you can speak better English, you are intelligent than the person who can speak better Swahili or better English. You know, it's a false narrative that it was sold to us. We as black people, we as Africans should learn to preserve and love our own cultures. That is the root of all these problems. We wouldn't be discussing this video if we loved our own culture and tradition. What I can get there is this woman complaining of the racism in these schools. It exists because of ourselves hating on ourselves. Yes, this is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, you know what to do. Give me a subscription. Super thanks, I will appreciate. See you in the next one.